Hi everyone. Um, I'm really happy and excited to be here because sometimes we talk about our work with people that have a notion of what is what we do, but here we are talking about our work with people that really know what the pains are in the food system and the work that we need to do. So I'll ask Ishu to show the first slides. I decided that because Instituto Maniva has a more than 20 years old, so I thought it was more useful for our learning journey, to talk about one of the methodologies, because instead of talking about the institution. So I am a chef. I've been a chef since 81, so a long time. I had a restaurant that was shut during pandemic, and also I'm a designer. I was a designer before being a chef, and after during pandemic I went back to school. So I made a master degree in design to try to understand and to make I don't know, a scheme of the role of chefs in the food system. So during this time, during this 20 years of Instituto Maniva, many chefs came along. It was a spontaneous thing. I wasn't planning doing that. And many chefs, like very famous chefs and not so famous, and some teachers of university gastronomy, they came to me and said, I'd like to help you with what you're doing. So we started this group called the Eco Chefs, who became a brand. And since then, we are doing things like in several parts of the system. But today I'd like to talk about one of the parts that was a lovely surprise for me last year, the year before actually, because it was the first action that Instituto Maniva did. And it wasn't an institute at that time, was just a movement. And I had the restaurant then, so I had the funding from the restaurant, and we started doing this we called identity foods for kids from the slums in Rio, in the school, in the public school. So this workshop was something that we started with no notion of becoming a nonprofit organization. But since then, I started to get in touch with other parts of the food system, especially mainly the smallholder farmers. So Instituto Maniva kind of divided itself into branches until now that I understood those two branches are connected, and we can actually activate one of the branch from the other and the other way around. So I'll talk a little bit about this. So this is, how many people, when you say food chain or food system, many people get scared and they don't know what we're talking about. Some people think it's a straight thing, little parts of the chain, different parts that are connected, but they are not, flowing, no energy flowing, but just strength. And other people think it's kind of little different. Some people think the food system is like that, and sometimes it is like this. It's something very not organized or not flowing, the energy throughout it. So mainly when we see in the media and in all over people talking about farm to table and food systems, people think about those 2 points, those two opposites, like production and consumption. So this guy here, the cook, sometimes, many times, people don't realize the importance that he has in the food system. Sometimes he even himself doesn't realize what could he do. Like some chefs I know and some cooks I know, they talk about product all the time, and they don't understand that product is just one part of this system. And if they belong to the system, sometimes they can change the system or make it go in a better way for all the components of this system. And of course, the farmer. So the most important guy of the system, the earth, the land, where the fruit or the vegetable comes from, where the animals eat from. So everything we digest, everything we eat comes from that guy there on the south of the arrow. But mainly he's the last one that people think when we talk about food systems. So for me as a chef, today I'm a consultant, but I had the restaurant for almost 40 years. I get really mad when people talk about products only if that, magically appeared in someone's hand. So I think this kind of those 4 points, cardinal points, that I think they could turn around as something like changing all the time. So I tried to make them go around, but I couldn't. So that's the actually, I don't think it's a circle. I think it's a spiral because all the time something is happening and is moving further from the beginning. So it's as a designer, I really pay attention to the shape of things, to the shape of flow of energy, and because it's a circle, is a system that really has to have, like Jack said at the beginning, everyone involved in a deeper way, not as a user of the system, but a part of the system and connecting with the others. So I'm gonna talk about this part, this branch, as I said. This was 2002, and we started to teach those kids in the public school in Rio about the most ancient food in Brazil, which is cassava, manioc, and this is like tapioca, which is the bread of the indigenous people in Brazil. So it was funny because we are teaching those kids something that they should know, and especially they should know because their ancestors were the manioc farmers of the northeast of Brazil. Like 90% of the kids in school, in public school in Rio, come from the ancestrality. They are descendants from the northeast, which is the poorest part of Brazil, northeast. So it was funny because I was teaching as a chef. That was one of the eco chefs. They had two of the eco chefs. So I was teaching them something that they should know. And because there is this ancestrality link, it was a different kind of workshop. It wasn't just cooking workshop. I was talking to them about their own path as humans in this part of the world. And we stayed in the school for 10 years. More than 3,000 kids went into these workshops, and we understood that we have touched something like sacred, something important, but we didn't know how this kind of methodology could be replicated, could be shared with other cultures. So when I joined the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, this logo here in up west, up left, I started to think about this workshop with the kids, because also there in this other institution, we are talking about how can we heal, how can we change, how can we build a different relationship between the parts. And I don't know why I started to think about the kids again. And maybe because everyone was talking about agroecology, and I think they knew much more agroecology than me, and then Maniva's work. Maniva's work is helping farmers to connect with local city hall and local restaurants. It's more a connection than a technological thing. So I started to think about the kids again, and I said, what if I try to replicate this identity food workshop in another culture? Could that be translated into another culture, another country? So Conscious Food Systems Alliance, they made a grant, and we won the grant to make a replication, a change of this methodology to another country. And the methodology, when we did the 10 years of workshop in Rio, I didn't think about it like being a methodology. I thought, well, this is a workshop that has 4 parts. Okay, great. So the kids love it, the school love it, we love it. So it's all right. But then when I decided to rebuilt it or think about it again in another point of my evolution, my learning journey, I realized those, and one day I woke up and said, it's a mandala. And it was like this very strong sensation. I saw the mandala and I said, it is a mandala. So there's the 4 parts. And why is it a mandala? Well, first of all, we talk about history and geography of that food. In the case of cassava, we talked about Amazon and about how indigenous people could domesticated wild plant that was poisonous into something that was the base of all Brazilians, all the indigenous ethnies that live here at that time before colonization. So we start by that part, like the earth, like history and geography. And then we go to the symbolic and cultural, like we talk about the musics and the legends, and like we act with the kids with this about this legend of the origin of manioc. So it's a very very strong thing that we make the kids, and we think about it. We act in that connection with the symbolic and cultural part that links with that food. The third part of the mandala is culinary nutrition. So we hands-on, like cutting, scraping, getting in touch with that, and learning about how it feels in the hand, how it feels, to cook it and to taste it afterwards, and to give away to someone. So that was part of the methodology as well. And the last part was brought, conscious eating was brought by COFSA, by Conscious Food Systems Alliance. That was something that we didn't do at the Rio experience, but we realized that maybe we could do that. So it's kind of a meditation before cooking and a meditation before eating, just 1 minute. And we thought that the kids wouldn't adapt to it or wouldn't like it. And in fact, they love it. And they realize they have somewhere to go to when there's too much anxiety. So it was a very, very surprising experience. So COFSA took us to another place on Earth. So instead of manioc, we had to learn about leeks. So we went to Wales. We connect with another nonprofit organization in Cardiff. They had nutrition and like better eating habits for kids in schools in Cardiff, but they never thought about doing a workshop on cooking and mindful eating, mindful cooking as well. So we connect with them, and we did like a 6-month research on what kind of food would be the symbolical food of Wales. And it wasn't evident. It wasn't something very easy. Like in Brazil, it's very easy. If you ask any chef or many people what is the main product, they will say aipim, mandioca, cassava, manioc. But there, it wasn't so easy. So they had this food researcher, cultural food researcher, and he said, listen, there's something really weird. We have the saint patron of Wales is St. David, and his symbol was the leek. So when there's this big party where parade where everyone goes in the streets, like I think it's the 1st of March, everyone wears leeks, like fabric leeks and leeks in the head, and they didn't know about it. They didn't know why they wear the leeks. So with that guy made the research for us, and we realized that he was a priest that only ate leeks and water for a long time as a kind of humble experience for him. And that became his symbol. So we designed the whole mandala, the whole experience over the leek. So those are the kids in Wales, and they were looking at a pan of leeks for the first time, a leek soup. So we also research about not only the symbolic item of the food, but also the recipe, which recipe could represent that. So that's them for the first time taking, like touching some food and cooking and eating. The effect was really unexpected, so big, so large. We went into the Senate House. They asked us to go there and talk about the methodology. And that's where we are now. We are trying to make this into a methodology that could take all over the world to different countries and the chefs being part of a very important revolution that we have to make in the food system.